we'll kick this off. Want to welcome you again to, what month are we in here? September's Kingdom Business Fellowship. I can't believe it. The summer is gone, and here we are again. And so we are blessed tonight. I think many of you know, at least that follow us, I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota, and so I was telling them, farmers have always been near and dear to my heart. It's like you can take the boy off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the boy, right? And so it gets in your blood. And so Chad actually and Gina are the ones that actually found you guys, and he started bringing me beef from you guys. And so I was like, wow, yeah, this is really good. And so I was like, we need to go over there and just check out the whole, production and see what's up. And so we finally got over, and you've been there a couple of, I think, to the stand, the little marketplace you guys have. And so we finally got over there in June and probably saw a lot about what I'm going to already see tonight, but I really wanted, you guys to see it. And, I thought, we need to help one another in the local community, promote, local businesses and farmers who are producing, good food and stuff like that. And they're going to talk more about all the other crops and what they do. But so we're so blessed to have Paul and Heather Wright with Wright Family Farms. And so they're going to come and show, and got a whole presentation for you guys. And then, of course, we can do some Q&A at the end if you want. But why don't you give them a great God bless you, Paul and Heather.
Okay, well, this might be a surprise for all of us because I haven't seen the slide. We have several different slideshows, so I'm not exactly sure which one we have going on here. As we are Paul and Heather Wright. This is our family. So from left to right, we have 4 children, and they're not standing in order, so bear with me. On the left is our oldest daughter, Brianna. She works for Egg Country out of Olivia, and she just got married in June. And our next daughter is Allison. She is our middle of our daughters. She is our tall one. She is just going to be starting a new job. I'm not sure if I can say where yet. So in 2 weeks, she just got a job. So her first grown-up job after graduating college here. Our son, Cody, is a precision machinist, and he is going to be getting married in April. And then our youngest is McKenna. She's in her 3rd year already at SDSU, and she's hoping to be an egg teacher when she grows up. You can switch. And this is a picture of our barn. I'm not sure what holiday we have going on there. October, looks like. We got some fall themes going on. So our farm is about 3.5 miles straight down from the high school on County Road 7. And Paul's mom lives on the farm, and we have a house right across, and it's the farm. That's what we call it. I think I'll let you start.
One of the things that is fairly unique about our farm is how diversified we are. Of course, a lot of the farms have gotten very specialized. You're going to grow corn, you're going to grow soybeans, have a lot of livestock of one type. But on our farm, we're fairly diversified. And in that diversification steps, a lot of it has to do with trying to connect directly with the consumer, kind of skip some of that commercial route. So this is a picture of the front page of our website, and there's 3 sections. Well, actually, there's 4 now on our website, but it talks about the marketing of our direct market beef, our aronia berries, and then our bales. And our bales is kind of expanded beyond that, so that is actually a picture of what we call our miniature straw bales. And that is something we started probably at least over 15 years ago, just to kind of put a time stamp on it. And a lot of the lawn and garden centers in the metro area fell in love with them, and we marketed a lot. We were constantly going to the cities marketing these little bales. And they stuck out. They were cute. They were perfect for someone that didn't need a big 50-pound bale of straw. We would wrap them in a plastic wrap so they didn't make a mess in the store, and pretty soon we found ourselves in very nice lawn and garden centers, big ones like your Bachmans and your Gertens. And I remember the day when I walked in to Gertens. Of course, Gertens is one of your largest in the nation landscaping top of the line stores, as far as just being a single one-stop store. And I walked in there and I looked at this place and I'm like, there's no way. And I have this little straw bale, right? And walked in there and I go to the counter and like I would like to talk to somebody in the ordering and to show them this bale. And this guy comes out and he looks and he says, "How fast can you get me one of those pallets?" I'm like, "Well, I happen to be making a delivery within a couple days. I can drop one off." Came in there and I could tell he was pretty excited, so then I was pretty excited. And that one pallet was gone in a heartbeat. And they called me up and they're like, "We need a full load." And of course, this is all happening when it's like things like corn silage and last cutting of hay, and I can't just like run to the cities all the time. And I said, "All right, I can come in with the full load, but we have to go outside your normal delivery hours because I have to deliver in the evening when you're just already close." The guy says, "No problem." So I remember, we went in there and it was almost getting dark. And when I left and I turned around, I actually saw them putting pallets of our bales by all the checkout counters in the store. And I thought, in Gertens, our name is there. That was really cool. So, and that was just kind of like got us hooked on this idea, like, what else can we do that we can set ourselves aside from everybody else, be unique, carry our name through that, and kind of develop that, this is our family doing this type of a thing. Setting ourselves aside from the marketing of, okay, I now have a semi-load of corn, I'm going to go dump it in this hole of the elevator and it's gone. All that work and all that hope all summer long, it just disappears and it's part of a glut of other millions of bushels. So what else can we do that sets us unique? The marketing of the beef, we'll kind of get into some of that, but here's a very good slide. Thanks for popping that different one up. And how did all this start? Frustration with the commodity prices. We want a unique fit that just says us. Where does Wright Farms just kind of stand out as being our thing? Be able to capitalize on those niche markets and just look at that individual message of what we do on our farm to work with people that want to buy from us. Next slide, please. Some of the outside help that we've received, the Department of Ag, Minnesota Grown, we have that label. AURI stands for Agricultural Utilization Research Institute. That is a Minnesota entity that helps get kind of initiatives off the ground in agriculture. They have anywhere from food scientists to engineers that assist in that. Excuse me, and of course the USDA and FDA or FSA office have some tools as well to kind of help market some of that. Next slide, please. Again, what are some new ideas on how we can improve farm profitability and develop those niche markets and focus on the consumers? What do they want? What are they looking for? And that helps with the next slide that can pop up. This is an interesting picture that I grabbed. This is a Successful Farming magazine. Is a very popular magazine that farmers get. And on their cover a number of years ago, they actually put this picture on there, and it was quite impactful, really. Meet your new boss, the millennials, a mom and her young child in the grocery store. And the intent of that was to try and change the focus of what is the consumer truly looking for in our products. And it's, ideas like this that helped get, consumers looking for regenerative agriculture, organics, or paying more attention to how their food is being produced instead of taking so many things for granted. And if we kind of fast forward time a little bit, COVID was another spot in time where all of a sudden the consumers were saying more like, wait a minute, how are those supply lines working? Why do I not see this? And what is in my food? And why are we all so susceptible to not feeling the way that we should and being more defensive in our bodies? And so that was another time where there was like really good attention on where healthy food is being produced and how are they being, going through that supply line. And within that message is not only, I truly believe that farmers are doing a number one top job here to produce what we do, but there's some things happening within the commercial development and mass processing of food in the middle that I'm not very impressed with. But we'll go to the next slide. Otherwise, we'll be here till like 11 o'clock if I get down that thing too much. So the details on the miniature straw bales, this is what it looks like, its size. This is our label. To be quite honest, currently this is a very labor-intensive process to put these together. So we rolled them out again for this year, but we are not promoting that we're wrapping very many because our cheap labor, our kids now have real jobs instead of sitting there all day long putting these things in plastic. So it kind of limited our ability to maybe develop the premium wrap product. But when we told the stores that we're just unwrapped, they were, for the most part, they're like, we still want them, so we're still sending them out. Next one. Just the label here, we've got our logo and our Minnesota grown. That carries a very strong labeling presence here in the state of Minnesota. Our UPC code, that was something new. It's like, how do we get one of those? And you go through that process and figure all that stuff out. And what are we made with? Minnesota straw, Minnesota sunshine. It's right on the label. So just another picture of how well they kind of blend in with some flowers and so forth. Just they are that decorative straw. Next one. This is a very old picture of our kids when they were really young, but we typically will take our baler, and it is a specially made baler, take it right out in the field. And, these throw racks, if we were putting regular bales in there, you'd have a full load of about 80 to 100 bales. When we pack those in there, we can usually get pretty close to 800. And that poor little baler is chucking a bale out about every 10 seconds, and those knotters barely stop on there. With the speed that thing runs, it also requires a fair bit amount of maintenance. But that's just the way it goes. So. These are some of the stores that we've sold in the past. This year they will for sure be in Bachman's, Gerton's, Pine Tree Orchards. Let me see where else. Sunnyside will have them. We do have, I forget some of the names now I'm standing here, but they're sprinkled around. So, and one of the things when we're not wrapping is we don't have our label on. And so we're missing that. Our name is not out there like we want. And someday we'll have to maybe figure out something a little different with that, you go ahead. The Aronia berries. This is the one that really sets us aside from being unique. In 2016, we planted a 10-acre orchard of Aronia, 12,000 plants. And the winter before that, just started reading some articles on things that were new, things that were different, and came across these berries that are the highest antioxidant capacity berry out there, 4 times higher than a blueberry and pomegranate, and they market antioxidants, and here we're much better. The one thing that this berry is missing is it doesn't have a sweet flavor, so it's not something you typically just pop in your mouth casually like a strawberry or blueberry. A little bit of the crash history. Your Native American culture was very familiar with Aronia because it's native here to the Midwest. Settlers came along, didn't like the flavor, gave them the name of the chokeberry. That might be a little more familiar. Poland came across decades ago and grabbed that plant, brought it over there, researched it more for its health benefits, and commercialized it. Poland now generates 70% of the global supply of Aronia. We tried pulling that back here and trying to get it noticed as a very healthy plant. Can have a lot of different opinions, but I'll just say it, the American culture is not always in on that healthy stuff. And so they're having a little bit more of a difficult time getting noticed, but their ability to make a very powerful difference in a diet is definitely there. So we put in our 12,000 plants. We had a crew come. You want to talk about trying to live through a trial. We planted we worked our 10-acre field. And of course, the plants had to come from a nursery in Sioux Falls. The planting crew had to come from Iowa. So you're like, picked a time on the calendar that all this was supposed to come together. We worked the field. We got it all ready. The plants showed up. And out of nowhere came a 1-inch rainfall the night before we were supposed to do this and turned the whole thing to mud. And so we did what we could do. There's actually irrigation line under the entire thing. If you put all the rows together, there's 6.5 miles worth of rows here. Day number 1 did not go well. Day number 2 and day number 3 of planting went a lot better, and we got it done. 11 days after this was planted, a hailstorm came by that The corn and soybeans in our neighborhood were scored anywhere from 70 to 90% hail damage after this. It basically defoliated almost every plant. The rain that came with it washed a lot of the weed barrier out, and we had a disaster. I went out there and looked, and it's like, how in the world is this ever going to come together? So we're out there trying to rebury the weed barrier, which was hundreds of feet washed out, pulled the little plants through the hole, what was left. Out of the 12,000 plants, we only lost like 300, and that showed how resilient these little things are, because it just basically cut them off. And they didn't even have a chance to grow out of their little planter cell pocket yet, and so there was a lot of concern, like those roots didn't even know what real dirt was yet. But they made it. The orchard is now the largest certified organic orchard of aronia in the state, and so the rest of our farm is not organic, but with this particular crop, in order to have a spot in that health food marketplace, you have to have that word organic in front. And so they're on a weed barrier. Heather continuously mows for hours in there. The place looks like a golf course in between the rows. It's gorgeous. We're right up against the lake where we can pull irrigation water of. So you can go ahead with the next slide. So here's the chart from the USDA that actually shows the antioxidant capacity of the aronia berries versus some of the others that really try to promote heavily with it. We get down, the goji berry is pretty low even. Where are pomegranates, where are blueberries, where's aronia? So the elderberries, we inched above them on this one. Actually, there's some cooperative efforts with the elderberry that we're working with them on. We're basically the same, but one thing that really sets us apart is that those guys with the elderberries have got to hand pick everything. There's no machine picking, and for us, we can machine pick. And so they work very hard to generate those elderberries. And their name is well known, and aronia is not. So there's at least, to a point, you think, well, there's some competition, and yes, there is. But then we're finding that if we work together, we can actually find a better marketplace. So, So that's that one. That's usually a slide that you see where aronia berries are promoted because it at least makes an impact. That look at where aronia is as compared to everything else that's more popular. Next slide, please. So now we're going to start to break this down, and there's about 5 of these in here, and I'm not going to bore you with too many numbers, but we get into and I'm not going to sound like I'm a health doctor either or a dietitian, because I still can't weave through all this stuff very well. So I'm trying to just kind of like this is what I read and this is what I find. So we break down those polyphenols, or the antioxidants, into the polyphenols and flavonoids, and these are the individual ones that make a difference in some of those health journals. So the anthocyanins, and a lot of these have to do with just basically immune system boosters, anti-inflammatory. There's data out there, but you're careful how to say it about, these things are actually able to make a difference for people that are working on cancer, diabetes, but they have to be a part of your daily diet to do their job. It's not something you do 2 days a week and expect to make a difference. That's not a diet change. That's just a chance, right? So you have to be dedicated to this. But aronia clearly blows everybody else out of the water, especially your strawberries, your blueberries, on their ability in that anthocyanins. The next slide, and I'm not even sure what order these are in here, and to be quite honest, but the quercetins is another one. There again, we're going to draw out, this is an element that's been singled out to be a fighter for some of those cancers and diabetes. Aronia, again, top of the list. We see other ones in there, lingonberries. They promote health factors, but we're talking in this study, lingonberries were only 21 milligrams, and aronia is anywhere from 200 to 500. So we're definitely seeing a leading advantage. See what the next one is. The catechins, if you're a person that loves to drink green tea because it's supposed to help your brain function, green tea is in the middle of the pack here, aronia on the top. We clearly higher on that one as well. Next slide. Caffeic acid here again. These are things that are have a difference with, again, we're going to go with that cancer and diabetes, fatigue, muscle pain, muscle aches, anti-inflammatory. Here's just another one of those that gets pulled out. Next one. Resveratrol, this one's huge. You can go into the health food section and you can find resveratrol capsules of all kinds of stuff. Look at where aronia berry goes as far as, the mulberry, the red currants, the cranberry, blueberry. They're not even coming close as far as a very natural, very direct source of resveratrol. No processing, no nothing. When you're putting, some aronia berries in with your oatmeal or your yogurt or something, you get that full gamut of all these elements in there of nutrition. Next one. So this is the aronia. The picture, full bloom, every one of those blossoms is going to be a berry. Full bloom lasts, honestly, about 3 or 4 days. About the time you tell everybody, you really got to come out and watch bloom. And then you go out and it's like, holy cow, what's happening? I got to tell everybody, and then nobody gets to see it anyways because it's over with. So, but it is, every plant, I mean, they're all from this tall to this tall, and they're just loaded. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And within a week, you start to see little berries forming. They're going to start when they're green, and by the end of July, they're going to start turning purple, but you better not pick those because those are really nasty. But you have to wait till that very end of August, early September, when the bricks and the sugars are actually changing in there, and then they sweeten up. Next one, a little bit more of a close-up of the berries. They are very, very purple. As a matter of fact, that they can be a source of a natural purple dye. So when you're working with berries, your hands are purple, your shirt's purple. If you put a lot of berries in the sink and you have a stainless sink, it can even have a purple color for a little while. So everything is going to be purple. Okay. This is a picture of some of the pruning. This is a few years ago, we hired a couple landscapers from Hutch to help us go through and do some cutting. Those branches that are on the bottom really do not do any benefit to the plant. Once they are full of berries, there's so many on there, they'll actually lay on the ground, and the picker can't get them. And so to go along with the hedge trimmer and just knock all those off and teach that plant to go up and out off the ground is very helpful. These plants will actually, when they're the ones that are going to really produce heavy, literally have to hang on each other within about 2 weeks before harvest because they're just so much weight on those branches. And after you go through with the picker, they just spring back up again. So this is a little bit of harvest. This is Heather riding on the back of the picker, just kind of watching the berries when they come in. Every once in a while, you can see like a frog or something like that come in. That's just thought that he was hanging out on the branch, and all of a sudden he comes up through the picker. So we usually have 1 or 2 people just kind of watching on top, see what came through, and every once in a while an off-colored berry might come in if they can catch it and throw it out or whatever. So this is a picture of the complete harvester. We just have a tractor that pulls it through. The harvester is actually made in Poland because Poland did a fantastic job of actually expanding the harvesting and the growing of this crop. A lot of your specialized equipment comes from Poland. I was in Croatia for a couple weeks on an agricultural exchange project, and you get over in those countries, and they are very familiar with aronia. Their college, their universities have studied it. Their health schools have studied it. They look at food differently than we do, by far, in my opinion. And so when I went over there and said I was an aronia grower, they were all excited. They want to know exactly, how much and what we do with it. And but they're ahead of the game by far on that. So next picture. This is just a neat little picture of some of the harvest oats of berries next to the cornfield that happened to be right next to our orchard that year. So it kind of shows you where the rest of the crops are when we're harvesting. This is a load of aronia berries that's getting ready in our reefer trailer to go out to a freezing facility and cleaning facility in Wisconsin Rapids. Yeah. That trailer, that's about 20,000 pounds in there of berries. Yep. Yeah. As soon as, typically it's fairly warm at that time of the year. So you get them in a reefer and you turn it on. You just let her go. And the faster that they actually hit a freeze point, the better. So. Okay, next one up is our beef. Growing up on a farm, you get kind of spoiled. There's always beef in the fridge, right? And I think there's always been somebody that would, kind of buy a quarter or a half or whatever. And they would talk about how nice it is to be able to come directly to a farm and buy beef, and then we decided to expand on that quite a bit. And so we started promoting and marketing that we are the source to get the quarters and halves. And just about the time that we were ready to really push the dial on that, all of a sudden COVID hits and every meat locker was backed up for a year. And we were lucky enough that we were able to work a deal to get in locally. And we now do all of our custom order beef cuts are done in Brownton at City Meats. And we typically are bringing up to 7 animals per month in there to get done. And they do a great job. And they comment continuously about how great our beef is when it gets cut. And our customers order through our website. We don't know, really don't have any idea who most of them are, because it's just a name and an order that comes in, and they'll tag us back and say, man, this stuff is great, and they return back. And a lot of our customers are out of the cities, and they'll drive out to Brownton and pick them up, and it's been working really good for us. So yeah, just the different ways that we've kind of promoted this, farm fresh beef. And during that journey, you can go ahead and we'll see what other slides I put in. The animals that we choose to direct market are going to be, the dairy industry breeds a fair amount of animals to beef so that we don't overrun the market with too many heifers. And we've gotten very good at keeping dairy cattle longer in the herd, and then the heifer numbers just build up because there's not as much culling on the other ones. And so there's a lot of beef that are bred to dairy to limit that oversupply of too many females getting in these barns. And so our calves that we have on our own and that we buy in, we have 2 different farms that we buy from, and they're going to be bred on that Angus, so they're half Holstein, half Angus is what it comes up with. So we get a little bit bigger frame from the Holstein, we get that high-end meat quality on the Angus side. So these are a couple little calves. We typically get them at a week old. They're bottle fed for that first month, and then we start working them through the process. All the feeds that they eat are raised on our farm, with the exception of the protein supplements that we buy in. They come out of Formafeed, which is another local source, local jobs. Now, what really makes our calf raising program unique, you'll see this little guy is drinking purple milk. How do we get that purple milk there? We put aronia berry juice in the milk. So we probably have the only calves out there that are raised on purple milk, utilizing 2 to 3 ounces of aronia berry juice in their milk every day, helping boost that immune system that we brag about. That's why we grow and market the berries. So we're sending it through our calves as well to help them out. And they don't even notice the difference, by the way. They're so that is definitely a unique, the calves that get to drink purple milk for their first month to 6 weeks of age. They're Viking fans, exactly. The different things that we focus on in our beef, transparency and how they're raised. We try to stick with the non-GMO feeds. People like to see that in their advertising. Now, we're not trying to make a statement that GMOs are bad, but it is with our customers. It does mean something to them, and so we try to stick with that as much as possible. There are no hormone implants whatsoever in our beef raising program. Antibiotics, are we going to use them? Absolutely. If I have a calf that's not feeling well, it's my job to make sure that it gets better. And so we're going to sparingly use antibiotics when we need to. Provide a high quality of life, keep them bedded, keep them happy, keep them healthy. Focus on animal health, focus on that high quality feeds and environmental stewardship. We do a lot of things on our farm towards environmental stewardship. As a matter of fact, last year, the McLeod County Soil and Water Conservation District awarded us Conservationists of the Year for our practices on our farm. So we try to wrap all of these things into our messaging on that. So next slide. And that, when we're trying to promote what does Wright Farms do, what does our family farm do, we're trying to, focus on those community activities and be seen. When it comes to things like the 4-H and FFA, when they need something, they call, and we're there. In a couple weeks, we'll have the entire 4th grade from Hutchinson out at our farm, which is a joint effort that we do with the ag program here in Hutchinson, where it's called Farm Farm Product Safety Day. There we go. The kids run different stations. The buses of fourth graders keep coming out, and they go through the barn. They sit in the tractor. They do different things. They look at tractor safety and so forth. We've done that for many, many years, and it's a neat thing. What we're known for on the south side of town is all these things that we make out of bales, and so we honestly are not sure when this started. It was a long time ago, or how it started, but all of a sudden we put a few. I think it was maybe the Thanksgiving one, or I don't know where it started, but it was just a couple bales in the beginning, and then we changed it up for the next holiday. And then all of a sudden we're sitting around trying to figure out how to make the next one. And, different events that happen throughout the year will pop up something unique. And now it's gotten to be like, it takes days to generate some of these. So, but there's a couple examples here on the slide. This one, I think if I remember right, the basketball team was going to state that year. The next one is one of our Christmas ones. That one we make sure and use lots of lights. And, it's not uncommon that when we're setting this up, that it's cold. Of course, it's December, and we actually have to put the paint can and the tube on the paint gun in hot water, or it's going to freeze while we're doing this. But when we finally get a chance to light it up, this usually takes 2 to 3 days of work. We've done some big ones for Christmas, and it's pretty cool. So the worst thing that can happen on these is freezing rain at Christmas time, and it shorts everybody out. We all know that when we're putting up Christmas lights on our house. So what else did I throw in there for bales? Here's a Halloween one. A lot of times, and it's changed a little bit, but at Halloween or on Easter, there's 4 pumpkins or there's 4 eggs on Easter. That's because we gave each one of the kids a paint can and said, this one's yours. So here we did 6. Somebody got to do 2 a couple times, I guess. So, but, and once in a while when we stack the bales that high, the wind has a tendency to blow them over, and we have to hurry up and go out there and pick it back up again and get it up. Did I get the FFA one in the slide deck? Yes, I did. When was this? Probably about 3 or 4 years ago. It was the 75th anniversary for the National FFA, and the chapter came out. We put these up. We actually had this was so tall, we actually had a small boom truck to help us paint this. There was lots of lights on here, and about 2 days probably after this was the day after, was one of those huge late winter windstorms and blew the entire thing over. It was so disheartening. This was making an absolute craze on social media. It was just within a couple days. This had thousands of shares and hits on social media pages, and they're all laid on the ground. So what do? You hurry up and you put it all back together, but we couldn't fix the lights. So we did everything. We did what we could. Some of the paint fell off. We went back and patched it, but we'll typically always have the FFA chapter come out and help us with FFA week, which is in mid-February. National 4-H week will be in the first week of October. We'll probably set a couple out for that. And it's gotten to be such a standard practice that we're putting something out there that last fall we missed one. We were wiped out, and did we ever figure out which one it was? Thanksgiving one. We didn't get it up, which is typically a scarecrow and some turkeys. And we actually had somebody message us, "Are you guys okay? Because you didn't get one. You didn't put your regular one." And say, "Yeah, we're fine. It's just been kind of a bad fall. We'll hit it really good on the next one," and we did. So, but it's been fun. People send us cards, people send us notes, through social media. People stop when they see us out there working on it. They're honking their horn. They'll stop and say thank you. You guys are just putting a smile on my face, and that's what we're doing it for. It's just to help boost morale when you go by. Have some fun with it. And what do we do with the bales when they're full of paint? Well, we feed them, we bed them. The paint falls off, and we're beyond the age of leaded paint, so it's fine. The cows will. It doesn't bother them any. So, but it's been fun. It's been fun trying to figure out what are we going to build next. So, next slide. This one is the 1 yard display that does not have any bales in it. This was our Memorial Day one. We will put this up typically on Thursday night or Friday night of Memorial Day. full of lights. Actually, the flag, and this is actually an old picture. We've rebuilt the flag. It's about 2.5 times bigger than the one in this picture, and the eagle as well is a little bit different. So that one is one that I think one of the news stations in the cities was a channel. One of them came out and did a thing on it once, but that's the one where there's no bales, but it's just really cool with all the lights and so forth on there. So this is a picture of when all the fourth graders come out. Typically it's a little chilly in the morning that time of the year in October, late December or late September. But it is really fun to go through those different stations and see how these older, the ag students are teaching these younger ones about what their station is about. And they've got this down to a pretty neat science. So there will be like a couple seniors at the station doing most of the talking, and they'll be also mentoring one of the 9th or 10th graders that someday is going to be doing that when it's their turn. And that continual transition and how they're able to manage that is really cool. So here the ag plot that is kind of on School Corner there, we typically do all of the planting and harvesting of that, and so this is a time where I was combining their soybeans for the plot, and they actually brought a class out to learn about everything, so I stopped and took all the shields off the combine and told everybody how this actually works inside that particular machine that can suck everything in the front and blow it out the back and put grain in the hopper. These are pictures of our kids. To us, that 4-H and FFA experience is very, very important, and especially when you get to be around animals and generate that extremely unique bond. That they're not pets. I mean, you teach that right away. It's like, this is not a pet. This is something that someday, when it no longer generates income, it's down the road. And so, as a farm kid, you learn that pretty quick. But they're showing at the county fair. They're showing at the state fair, the animals in these pictures aren't very big, but when they have cows on the halter, these things are 1,700-1,800 pounds, and they're going to walk around because they trust who's on the other end of the halter. And that is really an amazing thing to watch, how these huge animals can just be led like a puppy. But yet if they didn't trust their environment, things could go wrong very quickly, but they all have loved their showing experience. And as a matter of fact, this past year, although none of them are in 4-H or FFA anymore, we still continue to show at the fair, and 3 of them decided we're going to put the show clothes on again and pull some cows around the ring. So, during the county fair, we, for the past several years, have been awarded the champion exhibit area in the dairy barn. I can't remember. I think what do we use? 21 out of the past 25 years or something like that. Wright Farms has been awarded the best display. So that's kind of cool. And there again, it's just our connection being community oriented. So what do we have on the next one? So are we back to the beginning? Did we circle all the way around? Okay. Oh yes, here we go. So the straw bales, the miniature straw bales, were a hit with the lawn and garden centers. And then they would ask, well, can you sell us the regular bales? Well, we already put up several thousand for our own, and didn't really like the idea of having to put up more and figuring out how to truck them into the cities. And then we came across a machine that would actually bundle them and pack them so we can move them with a forklift or with a backhoe. And so now in our crop rotation, we grow a lot of small grain because we market thousands of our regular bales into those garden centers that would buy our small ones as well. So we grow a lot of rye, which in a soil health package is huge. To break that corn soybean rotation. Here we're cutting the rye in windrows and combining. And in the next picture, just a picture of we drop the bales in a row, and then this particular machine called a bale baron, they're made in Canada, will actually pick those bales up. Whoever sat up all night long and invented a way for that to work, I'm going to give them credit, because that is an amazing concept, what they built. But it will package the bales so that they're 3 tall, 7 long, It'll pressure tie them into a firm blocks that we can come by later with a skid steer and just pick them up and stack them on semi-trailers. Then the only time that they're actually cut into their individuals is when those lawn and garden centers will bring that bundle in and cut the bands, and now they're back to being individuals. Total labor savings all the way across. They love them because of that. And so that has really made a difference for us in our crop rotation, and just one more way that we control our market space in that. So that's where our Minnesota hay and straw came from. The next one, and this is more of Heather's management. People would, they might not have room for a full quarter beef, or they want to try the beef. Or how do we tell that aronia berry story better? And so we need our own little shop. We need our own little store. So we had a building on the farm that we were not using, and so we went through the year-long process of trying to figure out what permits and all this other stuff do we need from the Department of Ag to have this little shop. And so that's our little building, Wright Farms Market. And so we have our berries in there. We have our beef in there in individual cuts, as well as a lot of other Minnesota-based themed products. We've been raising our own popcorn. We market that in there as well. Heather keeps looking around for different, things that are different, things that we can bring in there. We don't have the ability to have it open every day. It's every Thursday afternoon and every other Saturday, roughly. That's as you can tell, time is kind of valuable for us, and so that's kind of the amount of time that we have to spend in there. But it really did generate that area where somebody can come in. I heard about these berries. What are they? Now we can have a one-on-one discussion to go through some things and how to best put them in your, what's their best daily way to get them in there. Talk about the beef and all the other things that are there. So I don't know. Do you want to talk about all the other products in there at all, or? Just come and check it out. There we go. There we go. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Jams,
the honey
mixes, lotions, soaps,
coffees. Yep.
coffee.
The cheese actually comes out of First District. That's where we market our milk to. So First District is the largest cheese plant in the Midwest. They bring in about 8 million pounds of milk every day. So that's where our milk goes to. And then we are the Hutchinson area's outlet for that cheese, as well as they have their own store up in Litchfield. Yep. Yeah, it changes on and off what's in there. You're kind of looking for what's different, what's unique, and you're
What sells.
and what sells. Yeah, and what sells. So when you're small like that, you can't volume buy things and make use of that. So it might not always be the cheapest, but we try to stay within things that are grown here, in Minnesota, grown somewhat locally. The syrup, one of our syrup avenues is actually generated up by Lake Jenny, so there's pretty well local trees there. Like Heather said, come check it out. So that's our market part of it. So. And this is something that we go around with. It is our soft serve ice cream trailer. This is actually the same one that has been at the county fair the last couple of years. We just took this up to Fargo this last weekend to a festival up there and mixed aronia puree in with the soft serve ice cream, and that's a great combination. It's when you can say that eating ice cream is extremely healthy for you, the aronia in there. It's very good. Yeah, soft serve is pretty. Let's just admit it. There's a lot of sweets in there. It's pretty sweet. The tartness of the aronia berries, they blend together very well, and with the puree in there, the purple ice cream is usually a hit. So, we rent this out. It isn't very often that we actually serve out of it, except for on a couple festival things. But otherwise, it's people have brought it in for company events and so forth. Something we picked up a few years ago. So. And that's us. BrightFamilyFarmsMN.com is our website, our contact. We're generally pretty easy to find, south of Hutch. We're really happy to have an opportunity to talk with you guys tonight. I think the pastor had mentioned, where does faith or where does church kind of pop into this? And Heather and I are, both active in church. Heather's still in the church council. I cycled off, and so we're taking time to make sure and be a part of that. And looped in with that sustainability practice. I mean, God gave us these things to grow, and so do a good job with it. And healthy food makes a difference. So try and promote those things and use them. And you get done with a crop. Who helped with that? And who helped generate that? The sunshine and the rain, right? And you better be thankful for what was provided for you. When you're farming, you're definitely become at one at the will of nature. And this summer had its trials with all the rain. That's for sure. And it still rides us pretty hard today, but then you can go somewhere else in the nation and they're praying for a rain cloud, right? So be thankful for what you got. So what do you want to add on that?
Well, we are just truly blessed. We were talking ahead of time that we are truly a family farm. Our kids are pretty much grown anymore. They all have their own jobs and lives, but they all come almost every day back to the farm after work and help with projects and do things. So that is a blessing. Our family's expanding. Yep. And they all like to come back to the farm too and help out. So it's very wonderful. I don't know, questions?
How long?
That's a good question. In the freezer, I would say a year for sure, no problem. We will take them out probably kind of a pound a week. They last in the fridge a good week, if not 10 days. You can probably even push it about a week and a half.
Any other questions? I do have another.
Keep going. You have more.
I got the mic. So the beef, like, let's say, people order online. Have you ever hit a point where you're like you can't keep up with demand because, it just takes a while for these to grow, obviously, and be ready for to eat. And so how's that kind of balance out, or how's that going as far as that experience of having enough but not overselling?
So it's exactly like you said, they take a while to grow. So this spring, we only do so many a month appointment-wise. They can only handle so many, and we only have so many animals ready. I know you're going to say something else after this, but this spring we actually had a wonderful problem. We were booked out about 2, 3, 4 months out on appointments. People would order and we're like, okay, we can't get you in until June, but if you're willing to wait. We try to be transparent about that right up front on our website. We're usually booked about 2-3 months out. So that hasn't been a problem. I know you're going to talk about the overflow.
Yeah. When you're buying in calves, like where we get our calves from, we get them all. And so there are times where we're flooded. And then I know that in a year and a half, we're going to be moving a lot out. And right now, of course, beef prices in the store are rocket high, and so are commercial sales. And so it's fine if we have to take some up into conventional selling at this point. I don't know when this beef market is actually going to hit a plateau, because eventually it's just going to get so expensive, it's going to be tough to put under to bring home, right? But the nation's beef crop is not big at all. Huge droughts through the mountain states. A lot of these ranches are getting older, and the kids are not coming back to fill those ranches. And you know who's buying those ranches up anymore? It's people who are not, they just want a ranch to go hunt at or whatever. They're not putting cattle back out there. They don't want to deal with that. And so our nation's beef crop is really dwindling very fast, because that's a tough life, ranching. And so right now, this deal with the dairy industry breeding a lot of beef cattle in there is actually fueling a significant amount of the beef supply and putting high quality beef out there. But yet as a nation, the demand is just incredible, and so are overseas sales. And so we see this huge price coming and staying for a while as long as the consumer can hang in there. But at some point, when it's costing 30 some bucks to eat a steak at night, that's not everybody's going to do that, you know. So right now, the overflow has really good value, and it's fine. But yeah, when we're buying in calves, I mean, some months our suppliers were like flooding us last November and December to the point where I don't even know where we're going to put calves anymore. This has taken a lot of time to take care of all these, and I know that out the backside, be next summer we're going to have a huge group to finish off, and if there's enough, demand, we kind of we have to plan ahead with our processor, and they need to know how many per month, and so we're usually in that 6 or 7 reservations, and when we're full, we jump to the next one. Now someday, if we need to jump to blocking off 10 every month, then we can do that, but we can't just do that on a drop of a coin. It takes time. I mean, they have a business they have to keep full as well, so we have to be careful with those appointments. But yeah, when the calves come in, I mean, they're ready when they're ready. We watch the body scoring very carefully so that we feel that they're the ones that are ready. They're good. There's been some times where they weren't ready enough, and we've had ask, a couple of them, can you wait, because they're not up to size yet, and we get through that. But now we're to the point where there's plenty of them out there. So.
So you were mentioning that not everybody can handle buying obviously a full cow or even a half a cow. Mm-hmm. So with like a quarter of a cow, and I don't think maybe I missed that detail, but I don't think I did. So that would be something where somebody can call you and say, hey, what's your price for a quarter of a cow right now? And then you come back and pick that up later, right? Versus coming straight to the market, you would just purchase it as you sell it there.
Yeah, so the market, we bring beef to a USDA inspector shop. I didn't say that very well at all, and that is Olivia. They have a shop there where the USDA inspector watches at all times everything that goes through. When you have a USDA approved facility with an inspector there, it takes a tremendous amount of time to, every cut needs to be weighed separate, stamped separate, and inspected separate. That is the only way that we can bring those cuts back into our store. For us to send them off and bring those back, have to go through that inspection process. Now, a custom shop, like what City Meats is at Brownton, are they inspected? Absolutely, but they don't have a person there all the time. And so in that scenario, the way that the licensing works in the state, and then the state mimics how the federal USDA treats this as well, we cannot retain custody of that meat again. Once we drop that animal off, by the way it works, we're done with it. We can't grab that again. So the customer has to come and take it out the door on the other side. Gotcha. So there's a little bit of difference in processing and how that works. And it's actually pretty expensive to process to get that USDA stamp on every package, but that's just that food security step. That is one of those licensing things. So,
I don't think that answered your question fully. We do all our ordering for our quarters, halves, and wholes on our website. So we gather all your information, and we hope we're very clear. We keep trying to make it better as people tell us things, and then you'll put an order in. We will say we are booking out to October. Does that work? Our price and everything is right there on the website. Cool. So. Oh, yes, we do require a down payment, and then that comes off the total at the end. That just secures your spot, and we know you're serious about it.
Sounds great. Yeah, I like that. One other question I had was on the aronia berries. So, because that's something you can come and buy at the market as well. And so, but pretty much like, are you just buying aronia berries in bulk at the market, or what are different ways that you can buy it? And if you bought them in bulk, what's the best way for somebody to process them and use them?
Okay, so at the market, we have 1 pound, 5 pound, and 25 pounds are our increments you can buy them in. You can make them into almost anything. Jams, breads, desserts, anything you can do with pretty much a blueberry, because they're kind of the same size and consistency. You might need a little more sugar, honey, maple syrup, something in there to sweeten them a little bit. They're great in smoothies. I throw them on oatmeal or granola in the morning. You eat them in yogurt. A lot of people do smoothies with them. You had another question.
Can you use them just, I mean, so like, yeah, you can blend them easily, whatever. So when you say you throw them on oatmeal, is that like just raw like that, or do you have to cook them down, or?
Nope.
Just raw, okay.
Make my oatmeal, throw berries on top, little cinnamon, and I put some flax and chia seeds on there, and that's it.
Wow, that's cool.
Anything you want, yeah. I do cycles for my breakfast. For a while I do oatmeal, then I do granola, then I'll do smoothies for a while, but I just throw whatever other frozen fruit I have. I'll throw apple, banana, yogurt, milk. Sometimes I'll throw oatmeal in there. Whatever you want, yeah. A pie? Yeah. Yes. We've tried straight aronia. I haven't played with that enough. You have to heat the berries to kind of crack them. That's probably not the correct term, like you would with a blueberry. It's good with apples. We mixed apple and aronia. My favorite is peach and aronia. The sugars from that peach really makes a good pie with aronia. Rhubarb and aronia.
Anything that is a little bit on the sweeter side will take that top end of tartness off, and then they partner very, very well. We also have juice. We cold press our own unpasteurized aronia juice. So when you're eating aronia berries, somewhere in that 15 to 20 berries is kind of a serving size, or about 2 ounces of juice. The juice is a lot sweeter than the whole berry, because of course that pumice is where the tartness is, and that's just a factor in a lot of those fruits. We also now have freeze-dried powder. We sent our own berries off to go through a freeze-drying and very unique powdering process where there's zero heat buildup in the process that they use, and so it's a very high-end powder.
Right.
So,
more potent that way then.
yes, absolutely more potent, and it truly encapsulated all the nutrients in there versus when you're using a heat dehydrator or a blast air to get it done. It didn't damage anything.
People probably primarily use that for smoothies, or
yeah, it's more convenient, because it is pure aronia powder. You have to make sure in a refrigerator it's going to cake, and it actually can a little bit, just because it doesn't have fillers and stuff in there to try and keep it. But that's something that we'll have new now available. We just got our product back a couple weeks ago. So, by far, the whole frozen berries are the cheapest and the way to go, but they're not always the most convenient. So the powders and the juices just kind of help bring some of those convenience things in. If you're going to be gone a little while, we have aronia gummies if you're not close to a refrigerator. So we have a variety of different ways to keep aronia there. Like I said, it's got to be part of your routine in order for a high antioxidant diet to work. The anti-inflammatory component of aronia is something that people may or may not feel right away until you decide, I'm going to stop eating those for a while, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, something, my back hurts or whatever, that muscle fatigue, muscle pain. True story, we had a contractor from town come in a couple years ago. We were actually giving away 1 pound bags of berries during this particular month, and he and his wife came in. They wanted to buy a bunch of steaks, so we threw the 1 pound bag of berries in there, and well, what am I going to do with this? And we explained it, and the wife's like, we'll get them in your smoothies, right? He came back about probably 2 to 3 weeks later, came running in the door when we were just about ready to close. He's like, I'm glad I made it. Just like you said, a few days after those berries ran out, my back started hurting again. And ever since then, he comes in a couple times a year and leaves with a 25-pound box to make sure that they're there. So it's one of those things where you might not feel it on the way up, but if you ever cold turkey stop, that natural source of a powerful anti-inflammatory will all of a sudden remind you it was making a difference. He just didn't feel it on the front side. So like to kind of tell that as a champion story about the effect that it can have. You want, like ibuprofen pills, take those, but if you want a natural resistance to some of these things, it's a diet change. So you got to pick, is it pharmaceuticals or your diet? How do you want to do it?
For the dried, how much like serving size a day if you do the dry?
Yeah, that powder that I just talked about actually has a little tiny scoop in there. And so one scoop is about 15 berries. So if you make sure it's good and heaped up, you'll get a little more of a blast in there. So.
And then do you just you could mix that in yogurt and whatever,
anything.
or
Blender in.
just in like water even, kind of? Or how would you take it if you didn't mix it in yogurt?
I think you'd prefer probably to put it in like a smoothie or a yogurt. I don't know. Just reconstituting powder.
It's kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cakes up. Okay, thank you.
So.
You have to make your own pie.
Yeah, you have to make your own. They would, we kind of make a run every now and then at trying to figure out with the licensing, how do we make some of our own products? And I'll be quite honest, that is such a steep curve. The ice cream through our trailer, we can sell as a concession license, but we cannot, the way it looks, put that in our store, because it crosses over the retail boundary with the Department of Ag and Department of Health, and it's very frustrating to get through that. Very intimidating and very confusing to get through that. It's hard to find help to actually go through that process. But someday we really, just as dial down and crack that would be great, because then we can make our own products and have a lot of fun with it. But you need such a steep investment to get there. It seems like that it's a big one. So. Yeah. Yep. There's actually a company in North Dakota called Pride Dairy, and they are just this summer unleashing an aronia berry ice cream, and those are our berries in that ice cream. So they actually have the contract to a lot of the federal parks, and so I believe at one point they said that ice cream was on its way to Mount Rushmore to be sold there, but I don't know if that actually worked or not, just because they kind of had their product runs off time with getting them where they wanted to. But so there's kind of some cool little gee whiz, didn't know that was going to happen today that pop up. So.
It would be cool because SDSU markets their own ice cream.
Yep.
You get that where they use the berries in there.
You're spot on. Our daughters are all jackrabbits of South Dakota State and familiar with the ice cream plant, and we've talked with them a little, and of course they have their things that they're doing for the university, and we kind of throw it in there that, hey, we're game, but yeah, that's great. Yep.
Our daughters have actually made aronia berry ice cream there for their national program. They have
Because they sell SDSU ice cream
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of areas.
Yep.
I have one more question. This would probably be pastor's decision. Like, do you guys ever come to a point where you need college kids or just willing and able bodies or just some small help on the farm where you guys could possibly like shoot over to the church, like, hey, we need some summer help, or obviously I don't really know. That's why I'm
Every
asking,
day.
but
How's that sound?
every day. All right.
Yeah, I tell you, the workflow really comes and goes on stuff like that, and there's days it's like, I do not have enough hands around here. And to be quite honest, last summer, my father passed away, and it was always very convenient. He could just go out and, he's going to cut hay all day long. He's going to drive combine all day long. He's going to be the one that run trucks, and all of a sudden that came to an end. And that was pretty hard to fill that spot. because now all of a sudden that body that was always there, that knew where every wrench was in the shop, where every piece of equipment, all of its little niches and everything that it had, and where the rock pile exactly was in every field, I mean, that was all of a sudden gone. And now all of a sudden all that experience was not there either. And so it's daily still difficult to fill that void. It's like, I just need another person. Where's, and our daughter that Heather mentioned that just starting her new job, that's been quite a blessing that she has not had a different job during the summer, just because of all the different things going on. And so she's getting up and doing chores, and in the second week of June, I blew out my hamstring and I'm on crutches for a week. And so the kids come flooding in to do chores. And if she wasn't there, we'd have been in a real pickle, because they can.
Getting ready for a wedding on the farm.
Yeah. And here I'm on crutches for a week and not able to use a leg. And then all of a sudden in July, I still don't know how all this happened, but evidently a mosquito got a lucky shot on me. I wind up with West Nile, had meningitis, and was in the hospital for a week. That was quite a trial. And, I mean, as soon as word went out, dad's in a pickle again. Well, the kids come flooding in to fill in the gap, just, like nothing missed a beat. And I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to pull this off? And then here they just take care of it, that was, just quite a feeling to just, you're concerned, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, they're doing it all anyways. They do it every day. They're just not without me there. The question on labor, I mean, this is far from a 40-hour-week job, like everybody realizes. This is a lifestyle, and it just goes. And you could go 24 hours a day and still not get caught up, and it's just the way life is on that, So, how many times this year we've, weather looks good, we're going to cut hay, we're going to start combining oats or whatever, and all of a sudden here comes a rain shower, completely changed the whole thing and destroyed all your work, and it's like, well, pick up the pieces, we're going to start all up again. But that's what makes you, all of a sudden when a day goes as planned, you're like, that was fun. That one actually worked out. Tomorrow something's not going to go that way. I don't know what it is yet till I start, but it's just the way it's going to be. But yeah, there are definitely some times where there just aren't enough hands to go around, and especially with the livestock, they just require a lot of continual work, and it's more than just the feeding and the bedding. It's a trained set of eyes. Our kids are really good, better than I am, at looking at a calf, and they'll say, "Dad, that one's not feeling well." I'm like, "Are you sure?" Well, look at its eyes, just aren't as sparkly as the rest of them. They'll go get a thermometer, and sure enough, it's got a temp, and prove it, and they've gotten really, really good at that. It is very hard to train that skill, to be able to look at an animal and say, "Dad, that one's not right." Their hair coat isn't shiny or whatever, and I'll go flying through because I've got all this other stuff going on, and I'll miss that. And so you have to have that detailed set of eyes to see some of those things.
Is it on? So as was asked earlier, it sounds like you would be available with your vendor truck if we were to have an event. Okay, how much heads up time do you need to prepare your merchandise for our event?
A week to get
I suppose.
product. Probably about a week. Yep.
Blake at Cashwise knows us very well. When we call and say we need mix, and that's our base ingredient that we have to have. So, from there, one of our biggest limiting factors on our concession trailer is the right plug-in, because we need a 4-prong 50-amp plug-in in order to hook that thing up, and that limits us in some places from doing what we want to do. But after that, yeah, it's just a matter of scheduling. So, you were going to add something there?
I was just going to add, we are at that stage of life where our kids are not kids anymore. And we've really seen that this summer. When he was sick in the hospital, they just did drop everything and ran the whole farm. I was able to stay either with him or go to work right across the street. So what a blessing again to just our children are so involved, and very thankful about that. And we're learning that they're adults even though we still see them as kids in our eyes, that they know and they can be responsible and do things.
Cool. Anybody else? Any last question?
Your farms or your store is open Thursday and then every other Saturday. Is that on your website when you're open?
Yes, our
Okay.
hours are on our website, Facebook. We try to consistently, Thursdays are 2 to 6, Saturdays, we kind of say every other, but it runs around our schedule,
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. Did you have?
Awesome. Well, man, hasn't this been informative? I tell you what, it's pretty amazing. And it was actually, I think I even learned a few other different things from the presentation we saw back in June, if it was so very cool. And yeah, baling hay and straw. I remember those days well. That's a lot of hard work. And so, yeah, seeing those huge, the way they can compact the huge squares to get, or several squares into one big one is pretty amazing. So I can understand how production, right, makes the world of difference in a lot of ways. But I tell you what, before we sign off, I just really feel to pray for these guys, right? Let's just pray that God continues to keep them healthy, strong, safe, right, and that God continues to send them the right help and just the right connections, for their business, because it's great to have people in the local area that are care about the community or involved, looking out for their community and everything like that. And so I think these guys are doing a great job of that. So let's pray for them. Father, we just thank you right now for the Wright family. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for their health. Father, we thank you for keeping them strong, healthy. Lord, that your angels be round about them, Lord, everywhere they go, everything they put their hand to. Lord, we thank you for all the kids, Lord, as they rally around them, Father God, Lord, on a weekly basis. Lord, just continue to give the kids strength, Lord, and wisdom as they help mom and dad, Lord, in all these different areas. Father, I thank you for the right connections, Lord, not only in the local area, but, Lord, wherever, Lord, you would want them to expand to. Father, I thank you for just giving them the open doors, giving them wisdom and favor, Lord, and just continue to bless, Lord, everything from the cows, Lord, to the straw, to the aronia berries, Lord, to the corn and soybeans, everything that they do. Lord, we just thank you for them in this community. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Hallelujah. So, and if you're watching, again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. I think I forgot to say that at the beginning. And go check out Paul and Heather and the family at Wright Family Farms, just south of, is that south, right? South of Hutch. And so check out the website as you see there, and then you'll have all the details, the exact location and everything. But God bless you. Don't forget KBF, second Thursday of the month. And you never know who we're going to